suddenly went from doing videos to having software. How'd that transition go?
Actually, making the transition wasn't that hard. It's like the aftermath.
You guys have a really unique situation with having so many co-founders. It's really cool to see how you bootstrap together.
The faster that I can fail, the quicker I will get to success and the more I'll learn. If I was constantly afraid of failing, then we would get nowhere because all of the progress comes after failure. People say that the most expensive thing is money. And so when you take on money, you give up a lot. And
hello and welcome everyone. My name is Jacob Lee and this is the Founder Scoop. Today I have with me Kensington Rhodes. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course, man. It's great to see you. Great to be here. Lots of legendary people have sat in this seat, so I'm excited to be part of it.
I'm really excited to have you on the show because I remember when you first came to iHub, you were super hyped to be on the podcast. Like you were one of the first people that wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, you got to actually join iHub first
Yeah.
before you can get on the show. So
No, it's just such a cool opportunity, and iHub's been such an amazing place. I mean, the day that we joined, I knew it was going to change the trajectory of my life, of the company, and I've already made great friends here. And so being able to be featured on the iHub website, on the iHub podcast, and of course, do a pod with you, I just thought it would be super fun. And now it took us a little time. We had to get some paperwork done. We had to get some schedules aligned, but here we are, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
yeah, let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
What is your business?
It's called Viddy Studio, and it's software for video production.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, basically, before this, my co-founders and I had a video production company called Temple Mill, and we mostly did videos for small businesses, entrepreneurs, that sort of thing. And we kept running into this problem that as soon as we started to scale the business, we would be overwhelmed by a massive amount of editing. I know you've experienced that to some degree with the podcast.
Absolutely. That is the worst part about doing a podcast. It's just all the editing behind the scenes.
Yeah. And editing takes a ton of time. I don't remember who it was, but there was some famous musician. It might have been Prince. I don't know. One of them said that 90% of creation or creating is actually editing. And for us, it turned out that was pretty accurate with the time. So we would go to a shoot, we'd spend an hour on the shoot, and for every 1 hour on the shoot, we're looking at 20 hours of editing time.
Holy
and that's conservative, And so we one day...
What kind of videos were you doing?
They were talking heads, interviews, ads, meta ads.
And they were for businesses, I'm assuming?
Yeah, for businesses or at least entrepreneurs who own businesses. So it was always some sort of revenue driving thing. It wasn't just for fun. They were trying to make money from making these videos. And so, we were the creative guys. We were showing up with our cameras and gear and making it happen. And, we'd film with these entrepreneurs, and no matter how good you are on camera, no matter how comfortable you are, you're going to make mistakes sometimes. You're going to trip over your words. You're going to say something that you didn't mean to say, or even just the inflection is going to be off, and you want to do a retake. And so we'd finish these shoots. There'd be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And then we'd go home. And not only do we now have to edit that, but we'd have to sift through all this footage to find the good little nuggets, to pull out the good takes. And so typically 1 hour of footage would turn into 2 hours of just rewatching and chopping up footage. And that's not even the creative part. That's not the colors. That's not the music. That's not the transitions, the fun parts of editing. That's just a slog. You're just sitting there going through, rewatching mistakes, and it's painful. It takes a lot of time, usually about double the amount of film time. And so we were like, it would be amazing if there was a way that you didn't have to do this uncreative part of the creative process. And that's where the idea of Viddy Studio came from. And so it was actually in 2019 when we first had the idea.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been, in our minds. We've...
How long were you guys doing video production before that?
So two of my co-founders, Mike and Truman, they actually have been professional videographers to some level since 2016. And Mike was 18. He just graduated from high school, and he did a concurrent enrollment program with UVU. And then he went on a trip to New York for his birthday, met this guy who had recently sold his company and took some photos with him. And the guy loved his photos so much that he gave him a job to move out to New York and
No
work on his
way.
media team.
Wow.
And Truman's story was somewhat similar. He's a few years older than Mike, so he was in college, and he met a guy who's now a good friend of his at a conference, and they were the only two guys with cameras on them. And he was like, hey, I know a guy who needs a media team. Why don't you come move to New York, and you can help him on the media team? And so Mike and Truman met on this guy's media team.
It's the same guy?
Same
both?
guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Same guy. And so Truman was from Pennsylvania. Mike was from Provo. And they met in New York. They lived in Newark, New Jersey. And they helped this entrepreneur build his personal brand. He was around 10,000 followers on Instagram when they started. He was over 400,000 by the time they left a year later. And while they were there, he started getting brand deals. This was in the early days of Instagram, like actually making people money.
Mm-hmm.
And he started getting brand deals, getting paid a ton of money. And they were getting some notoriety, and a lot of people were trying to get them to make content for them. And so they're like, you know what, we're going to go build our own video production company. And so they started that. I ended up joining them later on after a few years in SaaS sales. And then Race, our developer, he's actually like Mike's older brother's one of his best friends from high school. And so all of us have known each other for 8+ years. And we all came together to build this. And it's been a thing on our minds for a long time, but we didn't fully focus on it until I think April this year. We were focused on the video production company, and then we finally had an MVP ready, and we were like, okay, it's ready to share with people. It's saving us time. Now we want to share it with other creators. So
did you originally make it for your own usage, or did you have the
Yes.
intention of like scaling it and selling it to other people?
Yeah, originally it was just part of the video production company. It was just like meant to be on the
useful
website.
internal tool.
Yeah, a useful internal tool, exactly. And then as we were using it, we had some friends test it out, and they're like, this is really cool. We realized, this is more than just an internal tool. This has potential. And with the creator economy growing the way it is, it's one of the fastest growing sectors of the market. We feel like there's a ton of potential here. And so in April, we decided to sunset the video production company. We still held on to some clients and like fulfilled outstanding deals, but we stopped marketing it and pivoted to focus on this pretty much full time. And it's been an awesome, incredible, crazy ride. We've gotten a ton of testers. We've made multiple pivots. We're now pitching to investors literally later today. And iHub has been a huge part of it. Man, it's been awesome.
I love it. Walk me through how you'd actually use Viddy Studios. You've explained that it helps sort or reduce the amount of time it takes to sort footage. How do you actually use the tool?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably the number one question that people ask, like, okay, well, how do you use it? So Viddy Studio, have you ever seen those clappers that you use in
Yes.
cinema?
Yeah, for like movies and stuff.
Yeah, action, like that. That was a terrible clap, but it's the whole action thing, right? And the point of that is basically to mark where a take is, right? So we essentially created a software version of that not only does a sound that helps you mark it, but actually it integrates with your editing timeline. So the way that you use it is you pull up your camera, you start recording, you've got your script or your bullet points that you want to deliver, and you start Viddy Studio, and it does a sync sound. And as you go through, you're actually the one deciding if a take is good or not. So at the end of each take, you either move on to the next line or you redo it. And so what Viddy Studio does is it tracks all your redos and all your good takes so that when it's time for you to go edit, that time that I said, if you've got an hour of filming, it takes 2 hours to rewatch and chop it up. With the guide that Viddy Studio creates for you, that 2 hours will become 3 to 5 minutes. And so over the course of a month, over the course of a year, it will save hundreds, if not thousands of hours for someone who's putting out content regularly.
I can attest that the video sorting part of things is the most tedious and the most annoying part about editing
Oh
videos.
yeah.
It's trying to find the best parts and then making it into a full video. So it's really cool that you guys have optimized that process and made it easy for people.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, the best part is it's something that we use ourselves. We use it. We've got a Viddy vlog where it doesn't always apply, but we've used it for that. When we put out content ourselves, we use it all the time. So we are our own target market, and it also makes it really easy to connect with our testers, with our customers, and that sort of thing. And yeah, it just made it really intuitive for us, easy to, at least in the early days, come up with what would make sense. Although we didn't, this is kind of segueing into like some of the struggles we ran into is we had a little bit of too much ego, thinking that we knew exactly what the problem was.
Yeah.
And when we started reaching out to testers, we found that some of the things that we thought were not so important, they valued a lot. So we had to make some big pivots to make the software easier to use, which to us didn't seem like a huge problem. It was only once we started talking to testers that they showed us, hey, look, it might work great, but it's really hard to start using it. And so we made a bunch of changes to now you can use it with any camera. You can use it with multiple cameras. You can use it with a phone. You can use it on the run technically if you have some sort of plan where you're going to have takes. If there's no takes in something, you're not going to use it.
How did you connect with your beta testers at the beginning? Was it just people that you
Yeah.
knew and running a production company?
Yeah, I mean, we were, of course, our first beta testers, but literally just sending out DMs on Instagram to dope creators.
Really?
Like, I went on Instagram, and you can send about 20 DMs a day before they start to throttle you, which is not a lot, but it was enough to get things moving. And then we would ask those creators, do you know any other creators? And then, of course, past clients and friends. But it's it's mostly just been grassroots efforts of like shooting out DMs, like old tried and true cold outreach.
So that's part of your job, right?
Mhm.
You're the sales outreach guy.
Yeah.
What else do you do for the company?
I mean, my main role is just to get us into opportunities. So it's all growth focused. I don't code at all. I don't even know how. My job is basically just to put us into rooms. So it's stuff like this, getting on a podcast. I found out about iHub thanks to, I don't know if I want to name drop. I don't know. Well, he's one of the mentors. Thanks to Bronson Kafusi, who's a stud. I absolutely love him. And so my main role is to get testers, get us into rooms so people can find out about us. And on our team, it's really full of creative minds, especially Mike and Truman. They're very creative, obviously, coming from a video background. And there's like this balance that I've seen in, I can't remember what book describes it. There's a more creator or creative side, and there's a more integrator side. And I'm like very strong on the integrator side of like, okay, how do we execute on this? How do we get it done? And the creative side is a lot of ideas. And so my main job really is to take all of the creative genius that comes from the other guys and find a way to get it in front of people. And that's networking, cold outreach, sales calls, tester calls, pitching to investors, all that kind of stuff. Getting us into incubators, accelerators, that sort of thing.
I think it's really cool just to see how your guys' company has evolved. Like, you used to be a production company that did videos for people, and now you're a software company. And how was that transition for you guys? Like, because you already had a team established, and you suddenly went from doing videos to having software. How'd that transition go?
Because it was such a slow burn, because we had the idea in 2019, but we didn't have a working MVP until this year. It wasn't that hard of a... Actually making the transition wasn't that hard. It's like the aftermath, realizing that a lot of our day-to-day actions no longer applied, was weird. Because with a service-based business, you make some cold calls, you close a deal, you go fulfill it. But with something like this, we spent a lot of time doing free testers, free trials, talking to users, networking, like just trying to get into the right rooms, because it wasn't something like when you're in the idea phase and you're trying to validate it, especially with software, you can't really go sell it yet because it's not ready. And so
did you guys have to go and get a developer, or did one of you fill that role?
we have Race Atchison on our team. He is our head developer. I mean, it was too early for titles, but he would be the equivalent of a CTO.
Sure.
And he actually worked for a ton of different companies, including a company that was like a dev shop. And so they helped us to some degree, but Race pretty much runs everything now. We use some no-code tools to augment his abilities, but yeah, it's basically just Race. Like he's just a powerhouse, and he just is really good.
And was he already a member of your team when you were a video production company, or did you bring him on
No.
once you decided to pursue this new idea with Viddy Studios?
Yeah, he was. He actually. So the way that it started is when he was going to, I think it was Dev Mountain. Way back, this was 2017 maybe, and I wasn't even part of the company yet. I was actually working my SaaS sales job at the time. But Race was in Dev Mountain and he needed some stuff for his portfolio, so he hit up Mike and Truman and said, "Hey, I'd love to build you guys a website so that I can put it on my portfolio." And so he built them a website. It was really good. He used it on his portfolio, and that actually helped him land his first job as a software engineer. And then just over time, they kept contracting him to update his website or update the website or make new changes or whatever. And then the idea for Viddy Studio came out, and they were like, "Hey, do you think you could build this?" And as they were building it, and just realized this is way bigger than just an internal tool. And so rather than continuing to do this contract thing, decided to bring him in as a co-founder. And then I actually didn't join Viddy Studio until I think it was April, because I was part of Temple Mill before, the video production company. And then when we decided we're going to kind of sunset this and pivot to Viddy Studio, they basically, the three of them pitched me in a McDonald's saying, "Hey, we want you to come join. We need someone like you on the team. You've done a great job with the production company, and we want you to join as the fourth co-founder." And so that's how we all came together, was kind of over time, slowly just we knew each other. We were friends. In fact, Mike Truman and I traveled to Japan and Korea together.
Wow.
Way back in 2019 when Viddy was barely an idea. And so we just kind of slowly came together. It wasn't, there were big moments where like it was official, but it was pretty natural.
How'd you guys go about funding this project? Like, did you use the money that you guys were making as a production company to fund it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the old production company funded it essentially, and now that we're not really doing a ton with that anymore, like I've literally paid for my portion of what we've had to spend out of my savings, and everybody else has found ways to just bootstrap it.
Yeah.
And so we have deliberately waited to raise money until we feel like the idea is fully validated, and we think we're really close. In fact, by the time this episode goes out, it'll be, I think we'll be in the middle of our launch, which will be the first time that people can purchase Viddy Studio. We've had a lot of people test it for free, but this will be the first time people can purchase it. And that's going to be a huge time to validate, a huge opportunity for us to see, how many of these people who have tested and said they'll buy will buy, and just how people respond. So we're hoping that, whatever happens, we will find out what people think and where to go next. And if it's good, then great, we'll keep going down this path. And if we get feedback that like is not quite there, then we'll just make the necessary tweaks to continue. And so we've just been bootstrapping. We've just been, that's why it's important to save your money. Like Corbin said today, I am extremely frugal, and so I've been able to survive off of savings, not because I'm rolling in it, but because I don't spend a lot of money.
That's really cool. I think it's you guys have a really unique situation with having so many co-founders. It's really cool to see how you've bootstrapped together.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not easy. It hurts when it's like, hey guys, we have this expense for the business, and we got to pay for it out of our personal. But I would rather do that than take on money from friends and family when we're still in this validation phase. And I want to continue to have control over the company. I think, people say that the most expensive thing is money. And so when you take on money, you give up a lot. And we've just had the mindset of until we have proven the concept, definitely been post revenue, and the limiting factor in our growth is funding. We're not going to take on any type of funding. We might hit that point in a few weeks, but up until this point, we have known that our constraints are not cash, it's testers and time. And so when we get to that point that's a constraint, then we'll raise.
All right, fast forward in the future a little bit. Where do you see Viddy Studios going? Like, do you guys have a plan for an exit? What do you want Viddy Studios to become?
Yeah, ideally, all four of us are aligned on this too. Ideally, we take this all the way to like an IPO. Like I love the people that we work with, the creators. I love this world of software. Like, it's really fun. Utah's an incredible place to be doing something like this. And so like this for all of us is meant to be a lifestyle. Now, if opportunities come along or things change, then we're not going to be closed off to them. But we're not just like gunning for an exit in like 3 years or 5 years. This is supposed to be
It's a big long-term play.
It's a big long-term play. And right now we're mainly targeting people who make money with video. So they can be professional videographers, or they can be internal teams, or even a production company like we were. It's not necessarily for beginners right now, but as we grow and expand in the future, we would love to have more tools for beginners and make it so that everybody can more easily be a creator. Because we all have creative tendencies. We all have different ways that we could be creating, but it's hard to create, especially consistently. And so in the long run, we want to have a lot more tools that are specifically for video, for less experienced people, and also, of course, the people we're targeting now, which are more experienced. They're actually making money from video production.
What have been some of the greatest lessons that you've learned?
Well, I think a lesson that I had to learn before jumping into entrepreneurship was I was incredibly afraid of failure for a long time. And it kept me from being able to do my best. I would stop myself from trying my actual best because I was afraid of finding out that my best wasn't good enough. And then I finally tried my absolute best at an old job, and I failed miserably. And it was this crazy moment where I was like, this idea that I had, this perception of myself was shattered. Because I always felt like, if I really want something, I can get it. Whatever it is. Like, if I don't get what I want, it's because I didn't choose to go after it. But this was a situation where I gave it my absolute everything, and I didn't just not make it. Like, I failed completely. I was literally fired from my job, and it was a job that I loved. And I really grinded. I pushed myself really hard, worked long hours, and I failed completely. And so from that point, I had to reevaluate. Okay, who am I? Can I actually accomplish things that I set my mind to? And it took me a whole year, but I realized that the reason that failure was so painful was because I thought failure was a bad thing. But in reality, failure is just something you have to go through on the path to success. And so now I'm throwing myself in uncomfortable situations, conversations on a regular basis because I finally broke out of that fear of failure. And now I realize, oh, the faster that I can fail, the quicker I will get to success and the more I'll learn. And I'm no longer operating off of like a baseline of fear of not being good enough. And instead, I am constantly trying to find out what I'm capable of. And when you're constantly pushing those limits, they grow. You know, it's the whole thing about your comfort zone. If you stay in it all the time, it shrinks. But if you're constantly on the edge and you're jumping out of it, it slowly expands. And, you know, it took a really painful experience for me to learn that lesson, but now it's totally ingrained. Mm-hmm. And I still get nervous about some of these things. Like I've got a pitch to investors later this evening, and it'll be the first time that I do something like that exactly. And so I feel a little nervous about it, but we're going to do it anyway. And if I get up there and I look like an idiot and I fall on my face and everybody laughs at me and they make fun of me and they all go block me on LinkedIn and write hate posts about me, who cares? Because I will have learned from that experience. Like there is no downside to putting yourself in that position. And that's honestly been, like, it was before jumping into entrepreneurship, but it was the thing that allowed me to do this. Because if I was afraid,
the most.
Yeah, if I was constantly afraid of failing, then we would get nowhere, because all of the progress comes after failure.
Well, where can people go to learn more about you and Viddy Studios?
Yeah, best place is probably going to be YouTube. You just at Viddy Studio. We have a vlog. It actually highlights iHub, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Or viddystudio.com. Those are going to be the two best places. But we're at Viddy Studio everywhere. So any platform, you can find us on there. And yeah, we'd love for you to try it out. You're probably going to try it at some point.
I'm super intrigued.
And our launch is November 11th to November 15th. And we're going to be giving out a big, fat early bird discount for the launch. So if you make videos, check out Viddy Studio.
You heard it, everyone. Go check out Viddy Studios. This is super cool. And I know it's going to help you guys so much. Thanks, man, for coming on the show.
Dude, of course. Thank you. Yeah, it's been awesome.